Everyone, Mike Lindstrom here. Today's topic, follow-up. Very, very important. We spend so much time in the sales continuum. We talk about the continuum being from call to close. There's a lot that takes place there. What I did today is I actually wrote a timeline up here. You can actually see this is the drip or the pre-marketing that happens, the initial call. That's to set up the appointment, to confirm the appointment, of course. The initial meeting, and then follow-up. We're going to spend today on this area of the timeline. So let's just recap a little bit. So we spend so much time on being a separator, gathering gold nuggets of information. I would say intel is so key in the relationship building game. I don't care if you're doing one-off sales, you're doing consultative selling, gathering information. This is a human sport, gathering information about the other person. We have so many fingertips in our hands. We have LinkedIn, we have social media, Google, ChatGPT anymore. You can go find information about somebody, to gather information about their company, their values, their purpose, their history, if they've been quoted. All those things can happen so much in the beginning phase of the timeline, especially before you even pick up that phone. So for today's sake, let's assume you've already had the meeting. So you've already had some kind of initial appointment, whether it's virtual, live, face-to-face, delivering for a group, can be a finalist presentation, can be a copy meeting. So many different ways you might present a meeting, but let's just make the assumption that you've made your meeting take place. And now it's time for a follow-up. So I have this phrase I've been using for years. It's called pick up where you left off. Pick up where you left off. So if you go back to your notes, your journal, Google Notes, your CRM, Salesforce, whatever you're using. Now, if you're keeping good data along the way, from the initial time you actually interacted with this person months ago, years ago, you date things. I'm big on dating things. You go back and you find out when the last touches were. Touches could be a text, a phone call, an email. So I'm always going to go back in time, most recent, and find out what my touches were. And I'm looking for those gold nuggets of information. Did they go on vacation? Did their kids have something that was important? There was important dates, anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, anything that I could pick up where I left off. So let's assume you've had the meeting, and the immediate follow-up is so important. And when I say immediate, I mean immediate. Now, I have preset drafts of actual emails that I've created. I have several. So sometimes, depending on the nature of the meeting and the individual group, I will literally walk out of a meeting, get on the elevator, go into my car, drive to a coffee shop, and within an hour, send a follow-up email. Now, that email has been somewhat templated. And then I have the personal anecdotes in there. Hey, it was a great meeting today at 10 o'clock. With the three of you, I learned X, Y, Z, and ABC. These are actual notes from the meeting. I put it in to the template, copy myself, and then I send it. Lets that person know that I'm serious. I've already recapped the meeting in less than an hour. I had a good friend of mine last week. He said he actually did one on the elevator. He was on his cell phone doing notes, and within a matter of 10 or 15 minutes, he had a note upstairs to a group that he just met with, recapping. So they knew it was not templated, obviously. And that's how urgent he was. Now, it shows that you're passionate. It doesn't show desperation. It shows passion. It shows a level of professionalism. So don't be weird about following up very quickly. So having a follow-up system in place very quickly, very important. Now, I get the question a lot, how much should I follow up and when should I follow up? Now, that's unique to the individual, how much rapport you have. But I always say a general rule of thumb is you want to follow up immediately. Same day, absolutely. Worst case scenario, you have a rough day in the field, you're busy, you get to them that night. Absolute worst case scenario, it's the next morning. So within 24 hours, you're getting back to them with some kind of a next step. Because remember, in the meeting, the initial meeting, at the very end of that meeting, there should be a next step. What's our follow-up? What's the next step for the two of us? What action items do I need to follow up with you? What do you need from me? So that's going to be set forth in the initial meeting. So there should be some follow-up information that has to take place. That's why quick is so important. So now let's say you've already done your first touch in follow-up. Now you give it a few days. I like to time bound my follow-ups, letting people know, hey, it's Monday. I'm going to get back to you by Friday. So that gives them 4 or 5 days to let them know that I'm going to be following up. People appreciate follow-up. They're busy people. It's not pestering people as long as you let them know upfront. It's called pre-framing. We've talked about this. So letting people know upfront. Now, I like to touch people a couple times in that first week. And here's why. Things get lost. I've had things get sent on email. I assume they got it. I do initial follow-up email, and then I wait 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, get nothing. And then I send a text message. Hey, John, it was great meeting you. Hey, I sent you a couple messages, haven't heard. I know you're busy. Just want to make sure you got it, only to find out they did not get it. It went to a spam filter and didn't get any of my emails because it was blocked for some reason. And it had nothing to do with me. It was just something that was accidental. So thank goodness I followed up via text and I was able to find out via the email. So you want to try to find different avenues: text, email, pick up the phone, go old school, right? Leave a voicemail at the end of the week and say, "Hey, John, it was a great meeting on Monday. Hey, I'll send you a couple emails. I want to follow up." You're doing your job. To do your job and let people know what you're doing up front is so important. To do anything less is negligent. So very important in the follow-up phase. Now, one thing I didn't put up here is follow-up. There's lots of ways to do follow-up. Follow-ups could be on LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn. It could be some kind of a social media post that you do. It could be some kind of a newsletter. Information. You have some kind of information. You read an article that was pertinent to the meeting that you just had, and you thought it'd be relevant for them to know. Again, you're the expert. They expect these things from you. So embracing the expert identity and giving those follow-ups after the fact, even dripping on them. The drip happens at the beginning. They see your post on LinkedIn. They see your newsletter. You're pre-marketing to them at the beginning of the timeline, right? And even when you're confirming appointments, you're doing these little drips along the way. But in the follow-up, they're seeing your brand. They've met you. They now know how you roll. And now they're putting that face to the name. They're saying, yeah, that Mike guy, he's really good at follow-up information. And he's an avid reader. And he knows a lot of people. He likes to gather information and share it with this database. So whenever you need to do a follow-up, it's very important. The follow-up has to happen immediately and in different ways. Now, again, 2 or 3 touches in that first week, asking questions at the very end of the text or email instead of making statements, forces that person to have to respond. I always end with some type of a question. So they literally see a question mark. Is there anything you need from me in follow-up? Question mark. I try to put the important things of information in the beginning and at the very end. In the middle, whatever you have, that's data, that's stats. Just assume that longer that email is on that screen, the less they're going to read it. So brevity is power, right? Nice and concise. I always measure things on my laptop. If I see an email that measures with the ruler longer than 3 or 4 inches, too long, right? Busy guy. And then worse yet, if I pull out my cell phone, that thing's going to be like 8 inches because I have to scroll, right? So think about somebody reading something on a phone. How quick are you getting to the point? Brevity is power. All right. So make sure your follow-up strategy is in place. You already know this going in. You can template your follow-ups. In general, you can add to those. So it makes your job a lot easier on the backside. A lot of CRMs, HubSpot, Salesforce, a lot of these things have things like this already. ChatGPT, you can queue it, AI to let you know, hey, build me a custom follow-up email address, and you save these things as drafts. Fantastic tools to take advantage of. So follow up, be passionate. I would say passionate persistence always wins. Good luck.